For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
This is StratNews Global. On the gist today, we are joined in Vilnius by a Lithuanian MP, Maldeikis. He's also the Parliamentary panel head for relations with Taiwan and Democratic Russia. I'm Amitabh. Revi joining us from the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius, is Maldeikis. So, Mr. Maldeikis, thank you so much for your time.
Hello.
Mr. Maldeikis, Lithuania, of course, is right on that fault line when it comes to Russia. You're right at the door of what's happening. But in terms of Lithuania understanding India's stated position about the invasion, about the war in Ukraine, how do you see that?
We of course world is watching what position of India will be, because India is growing rapidly economically and her influence is growing very rapidly. So we are really interested to see what the Indian position will be on the Ukrainian war. And we see that in triangle of relationship between India, Russia, between India and Ukraine, and between India and China, because we understand that Russia is being supported we have a support of China in this war. We can see that they can tell that they are trying to be just an observers, but everybody understands that China is really supporting Russia. So we are interested to see what the India's stand will be in relationship between those two countries, with Russia and with China.
Right. I mean, if you look at the legal position, legally, say, according to the Founding Act, I think there was a political agreement that was signed between NATO and Russia in 1997. But there are restrictions on how many troops are allowed to be deployed, say, in the Baltics. But Lithuania and Estonia are asking NATO to urgently adjust its posture in the region from deterrence to what is called forward defense. How much is Lithuania fear a spillover of the war? And in that context, can you explain what is called the Suwalki Gap or the Suwalki Corridor?
We understand when we entered NATO, why we entered NATO, because of Russia, of course. And when we entered NATO and there was this agreement between NATO and Russia, the situation was different. Ukraine was, Crimea was in Ukraine, so that was very different geopolitical position there. We had different Russia then, because we have to understand that Russia 10-15 years ago is not the Russia that it is today. Is different country. Putin is a different person that it was 10, 15, even 5 years ago. It's because that COVID also didn't help, because everybody was sitting in the bunker and reading strange books. So we understand that if Ukraine would fall, and if Ukraine would fall easily, about 5 or 7 years after that, we would see Russian tanks in Lithuania, in Baltic states, because Russia would try NATO persistent and they would want to know, would NATO defend the Baltic states in the sense. So seeing what Ukrainians does, this is why we support Ukraine so much, because it's not only about Ukrainian and Russia. It's also about the West and Russia, and also NATO and Russia, and also about the Baltics and Russia. In the sense, Suwalki Corridor is a place very just about 100 kilometers space between Belarus and Kaliningrad. So there is a theory, and all the geopolitic people who works in geopolitics field of area or military expertise are sure that if there would be Russia would try to do something with a NATO, check if NATO is relevant bloc, and would it fight, for all the other countries. It would try the Suwalki region. It is between Poland and Lithuania. So you can send, those green little men, like it was done in Crimea, saying that, we don't know who it is, and trying to check what NATO would do, in a sense. Try what would United States do, what would France do, what would Germany do, in a sense, because you have to have all the consensus of a NATO to have a fifth article going and start the war with a nuclear Russia. That would be a big deal. So Russia would try to try to change that. And if you watch Russian television, they are very often telling that they don't like what is going on in Baltic states. They don't like our free position, and they would like to check if United States, Germany, or somebody else would defend us.
From one big power on your doorstep, Russia, Mr. Maldeikis, to China. Now, Lithuania was part of the 17+1. Now it's 16+1. Why did Vilnius decide to take on China to establish an office? Especially, we've seen the retaliation on Lithuania. Is it because you saw through how China was trying to drive a wedge between countries?
Exactly. I think the biggest obstacle, the biggest trigger for China to go with a very bad relationship with Lithuania was not about the Taiwanese office opening in Vilnius. It was about that we got out of 70+1 format. That was, Eastern European countries and Eastern European countries' relationship with China. So in a sense, China was splitting European Union into two parts, all members and new members, saying that it will have different relationship with the old members and different relationship with the new members. And we said that it's bad. We need to have a voice of 27+1. That means that all the 27 European Union countries have to have one position on China, because that makes better to make a better agreements with China and to have a better deal. It will you become stronger in that sense, because China wanted to split European Union as much as possible, split European Union from United States, and then find its place where to play. So we didn't want that. We want the United States near European Union because it's our question of our security, and we want European Union to talk in one voice with China, because we understand the threat that is going on from China every day and day is becoming bigger and bigger. We have to understand that, and European Union sees that.
Just picking up from that last point you're making, that the European Union sees that, do you see a reassessment within the European Union of how China behaves and how relations should be carried out, especially like big countries like Germany, which have had such deep economic ties with China?
It's different. It's becoming very different every day. A few months ago, there was a big how to say it in English, I'm sorry, big check in the newspapers, what is the mood of German people. So only 6%, a poll, so only 6% of Germans look positively to China. It's unbelievable. Germany, whose business so much dependent on China, looks only 6% positively to China. The shift happening very, very rapidly. And that shift was seen even before the Ukrainian war. And now war with Ukraine, Russia's war with Ukraine, for us, for Europeans, I can tell you not only about Lithuania, but all the Europe, is changed everything. It just shows that we want to see who stands on what side, because this is the moment of, to telling what side of history you are on, because this is the moment to get on some side. From European Union position, and seeing what China is doing, understanding that we understand that China coordinates their action with Russia very much, because if you remember the agreement that was signed of the first day of Olympics in Beijing between Putin and Xi Jinping, what it was all about. For us Europeans, It's new pact of Molotov-Ribbentrop, when two countries is splitting other countries, as we understand that, because it was signed on the first day, and the last day of the Olympics, Russia goes to war with Ukraine. What that means? It was coordinated, it was agreed. We look at this side. And European Union looks that from that perspective, that China is coordinating, and we understand that it's a question of time between the situation that we have now with Russia might escalate to the level between European Union and China. So we seeing even in German business is they are searching for possibilities to get out of China. They are looking, they understand that this produce chains and everything that we have very close with China is becoming question of our national security, and we will see more and more of that. Even NATO, that was created to cope with Russia, now if you look at the documents, and we have meetings that want to happen in the near future in NATO format, they will all discuss China and Russia in one pool. Russia and China will be looked at almost the same threat and what about NATO is about the national security of European countries and United States. So we are more and more seeing that in that perspective.
Right, you're saying that this momentum was building even before the war in Ukraine,
even before.
But the dependencies that have become evident with Russia when it's energy and gas, and now EU even saying that by the end of the year, they may stop all oil and gas from Russia, if that's even possible. So those dependencies, the European Union and Lithuania in particular see vis-a-vis China as a larger threat, a longer-term threat.
Yeah, we see Russia as a short-term threat that needs to be taken care of because we have military action. And in China's sense, we look at the longer perspective. It's mostly about business. And I can tell you one thing. If you look at the polls of European business, it's more and more of the European business, not only about United States business. They are seeing being in China as, it's a question of time that we're going to lose money there, because it's a question of time before our rivalry between Western world and the authoritarian world, as we call it, Russia and China and Iran, we can tell it in the sense, is becoming more and more seen. And the sanctions that you see on Russia now, that wouldn't be surprised for me if, in 10, 15 years, we would see the same sanctions that on China. So business understands that. Business understands the trend, the political risks, and it starts to react.
When it comes to India, Mr. Maldeikis, there's been an increased momentum also in terms of India engaging with not just the big European powers. Our Prime Minister, of course, has been to Germany, to France, for the Nordic Summit. But India has also announced just last week that it will open or convert its honorary consulate in Vilnius to an embassy. How do you see that development?
We just in logical trend, because I'm really sorry. I really don't understand how Lithuania still don't have an embassy in India. For me, it was a big surprise, because, it's just so logical that you have one. You never thought about that to check that there is. It's logical because India is growing. We understand, we see India as also some kind of, balancing act or in the region regarding China. We see your market. We see how rapidly you are growing, how your influence is growing. We see your growing power, and we see you as a democracy. For us, it's very important. We see that that you are the ones we want to have business, and this is why we do that.
Right. It is probably coincidental, but that it's coming at this time in terms of this is the anniversary, or it's been 2 years since China aggressively entered our land territory 2 years back. And then there were deadly clashes in June as well. But do you see any connection, or do you think it's just coincidental that India and China have such a antagonistic relationship? Lithuania has taken on China despite
Yeah.
the complete difference or mismatch in sizes. But India has also agreed to finally open an embassy there. Is there, do you see a connection?
When you look from that perspective, of course, it looks symbolic. It's really nice that we are, getting with your relationship as close as possible, because I'm sure that when we will have embassies from both sides, our cooperation will be, from the business ties, from the commercial ties, will be growing very rapidly. I'm really sure of that, because we see our interests, economical interests and political interests, is to be, you can look at us as a small country, from the Indian perspective, somewhere suburb of Delhi, but in a sense we are also European Union country, we're a NATO country, and that makes us pretty big, in 21st century. That makes you sovereignty, because you have a voting in European Union on commercial issues, on political issues. That makes us big guys to make some, make political decision. And the question of China showed that they're not gonna win. They starting to understand that they're not gonna win this fight with us. And this is because we are part of European Union, and they are attacking European Union, and we have a strong voice in European Union. There was a surprise for that. And relationship between Lithuania and India in this perspective can be very productive. As you can see, we have very much India loving in Lithuania. If you go, everybody we have people who have a religions that is being in Indian religion and everything. We have our language is one of the oldest, and it got a lot of relationship between Lithuanian language, by the way, with Sanskrit. Nobody understands why,
Yes.
but Lithuanian language and Sanskrit got very familiar stuff. So we have to study that, and this is why we need to cooperate between us.
Right, and your foreign minister Landsbergis, in fact, I think gave a Sanskrit Lithuanian dictionary to the prime minister when he met him just a few days back. But Taiwan, last question to you about your relations with Taiwan. Now, lots of experts and analysts look down the line and see what's happening in Ukraine with Russia as what China wants to do with Taiwan. How do you see that developing, and how do you see Taiwan being able to stand up for its own independence?
I look that from the Taiwan and from the military, if you look at from military perspective, I don't have China have much chance. Taiwan was preparing for 70 years. Ukraine was preparing for this war for 8 years, and Russia can't do anything. If you can see that, if Ukraine would have better weapons, Russia would be dead in the water now. And Taiwan was preparing for this invasion for 70 years, and being so, so high on high tech and so prepared mentally for this war, I don't see that China succeeding, and China understand that the invasion would be bloody, and I don't think that is possible now from military point of view. Maybe 10 years when China will have ships that could do that, but still Taiwan will be different country then also, and world will be different country world also. So it's about Xi Jinping political legacy. He is creating the authoritarian regime that is now, that's a lot of legacy is being put on getting the Taiwan back. And he seeing what is happening in Ukraine is vaccination for him also. He sees that it won't be the trip that I would really like to do, and authoritarian regimes, they can't cope with a lot of dead bodies coming back to their country also, and that would be a bloody war, and Taiwanese would fight. Europe would help, seeing what is happening, relationship with the Ukraine, and that United States would help. That would be the bloody conflict, and Chinese don't want that because they understand that they are not the ones that are gonna win this. in a long perspective, and Communist Party especially.
Matas Maldeikis, absolutely appreciate your time. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you, even if online. Hopefully, we'll meet in person soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And just a reminder to all our viewers, you can support us financially. We have been flashing on your screens UPI IDs where you can help us financially. Also, as soon as this stream ends on YouTube, there will be a super thank you, a heart-shaped icon right next to the like button that you've pressed to like this video, which you can also help support us. This is The Gist on StratNews Global. I'm Amitabh.